Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 series Rescue the Rockies. And we are just past the trade deadline in this 2037 season. Pretty well positioned to hopefully guide the Rockies back to the playoffs this year with an 11.5 game lead on the Dodgers in the division. We've got a pretty good sized lead over both the Brewers and the Mets for the best record in the National League. Although we are in a very tight battle with the Chicago White Sox for the best record in baseball, just a game up on the White Sox, who we have faced off against in 4 consecutive World Series at this point for the best record in baseball. Outside of hopefully keeping this team healthy and guiding it back into the playoffs, we are pursuing a team triple crown this year. New addition at catcher J.D. Lee leading the league in hitting, rookie Johnny Castillo leading the league in homers, and 3-time MVP Kevin Roberts Jr. leading the league in RBIs at this point. But with 2 months to go, the primary goal is going to be to keep this team healthy down the stretch. We really didn't do anything at the trade deadline this year, preferring to run with the team that we've got and hopefully maintain some degree of financial flexibility for the upcoming offseason. In a reasonably good spot as far as injuries as we sit here on August 1st. Everyone who's expected to be healthy at this point is healthy, but longtime starting catcher Mike Girard has not played since early in the 2036 season and is going to miss all of this year. And our former ace and planned number 2 starter for this year, Noah Schultz, pitched just 3 games for us this year before suffering a season-ending injury. So missing a couple of pretty important players, but if we don't have any other significant injuries, still feeling like this team is pretty well positioned for hopefully another long run through the postseason. Taking a look at our schedule for this upcoming month of August, most of our games against National League opponents, only a 3-game series in Oakland, facing off against an American League team. We do have 3 series against divisional rivals towards the middle to late part of the month. 4 games in San Diego, followed by 4 games in San Francisco, followed by 3 games at home against San Diego. And then we will finish the month with a 3-game homestand against the Diamondbacks. Looking ahead to September, big 4-game series the first weekend of September against the Dodgers, and then we'll be on the road against the Dodgers to finish off the month of September before 3 games against the Padres in early October to finish off the season. With the lead that we currently do have on the Dodgers, not anticipating that those matchups are going to be particularly important. But clearly, if we don't play good ball over the next 5 weeks before that first series against the Dodgers, that assessment could change. And things have not gone particularly well over the first week of August. A 3-4 record in the month for our Rockies, so the lead over the Dodgers down to 10 games. And we are essentially tied, at least in terms of our winning percentage, with the White Sox for the best record in the majors. A little bit of bad news. J.D. Lee has a strained groin, which is going to make him day-to-day for the next couple weeks, with a minimal impact on his hitting, a moderate impact on his running. Given that we do have the big lead in the division, we're probably going to be very conservative with him and put him onto the injured list. Could end up impacting his ability to have enough at-bats or plate appearances to actually qualify for the batting title when all is said and done, but think it's more prudent to ensure that he's healthy and well come October than to have him for some, I don't want to say meaningless, but likely less important games here in the month of August. And with the move of Lee to the injured list, Nate Harris will become our everyday catcher for the next couple of weeks. He's been our starter against left-handed pitching, given that he's in a platoon with Lee. over the first 4+ months of this season. A name that I'm pretty sure we've never talked about before is going to get his first shot at the majors. Jorge Tapia, 15th round pick back in 2030, almost 25 years old. Respectable defensive catcher with a pretty good personality. The bat is really not a major league bat, but he has hit .313 this year in AAA Albuquerque as our everyday catcher there with 22 home runs. Certainly don't view him as being anything more than a potential backup catcher down the line, and that is what we'll be using him for over these next couple of weeks. And of course, now that we're past the trade deadline, these little nagging injuries start showing up. First baseman Ryan Stone, day-to-day with a strained back that's going to impact him for a couple of weeks. Moderate impact on running, minimal impact on both hitting and throwing. Similar to our thought process with Lee, we're just going to put Stone onto the IL and look to the minor leagues for help. Stone doing what he always does with an average in the 289 range. 289 exactly this year, but he's typically, as you can see, in the 280s. A little less home run pop this year with only 9 home runs from Stone, but he does have 70 runs driven in, a 117 WRC plus, and a 1.4 WAR. So technically a little bit of a down season for him compared to what we've become accustomed to, but still a very useful offensive player for us. The first-round draft pick from back in 2028 out of UVA has had a very nice career for us here in Colorado. 2-time All-Star and member of all 5 of our World Series championship squads. He's also won 3 postseason MVP awards, the NLDS MVP in 2030, the NLCS MVP in 2035. The same year, he was also the World Series Most Valuable Player. And with the injury to Ryan Stone, we brought back Manuel Torres, was up with us earlier this year and has been part of our team the last couple of seasons at times. He'll serve as a utility player off the bench. The outfielder Phil Dingwell, who's been playing primarily against left-handed pitching this year, will get an opportunity to play first base for us against righties for the next couple of weeks while we're waiting for Mr. Stone to get back to 100%. And we've made it to the middle of the month. Both Lee and Stone close to the end of their IL time, although likely have a little longer until they'll be completely healthy. Haven't been playing particularly well here in this month of August. Over the past week, just a 3-3 record. We split a 2-game series in Seattle, and then we split a 4-game series against the Giants. So as we sit here on August 17th, just a little over 2 weeks until we will get to September roster expansion. Still have an 11-game lead on the Dodgers in the Western Division. But the White Sox, who have won 9 in a row at 78 and 39, are now 3 games ahead of us for the best record in all of baseball. So if we end up facing them in an unprecedented 5th consecutive World Series, very conceivable that they could have the home field advantage against us. You can see with his trip to the injured list, Lee no longer has enough at-bats to lead the league in hitting. And Johnny Castillo has been passed in the race to lead the league in home runs as a rookie. So our aspiration for a team triple crown quickly going against us. Anthony Pack Jr., second in the league in steals. J.D. Lee, obviously on the bench with that injury right now, but third in the league in batter war. And reliever Justin Gibson tied for the league lead in wins with 12 as we sit here on August 17th. And J.D. Lee finally ready to come off of that brief stint to the IL. Good thing. Mr. Tapia, not particularly impressive. Went 0 for 9 over his first couple games of Major League action as our backup catcher. So we will send him back down to AAA. He just turned 25 yesterday. Certainly uncertain whether we'll see him in the majors again, with the fact that we've got Harris, Lee, and Gerard all potentially signed for next season, assuming they're all healthy and well. And another rather meh week in this meh month of August for our Rockies. Took 2 out of 3 at home against the Padres, and then we lost 2 out of 3 on the road against the A's. The only real positive news is that Phil Dingwell being in the lineup every day with that injury to Stone paid off. 11 for 21, 524 average this week with a couple of homers and 6 ribbies. So good to see Dingwell productive with a little bit more playing time. And finally, finished off the month of August with a good week. Took 2 out of 3 at home against Pittsburgh, and then we swept the Diamondbacks. I have an off day today on Monday, August 31st, before roster expansion tomorrow. But as we sit here, standings-wise, 12.5 up on the Dodgers in the National League West. The Mets at 74 and 57 are 10 games behind us for the best record in the National League. So feeling pretty confident at this point. We'll have home field advantage at least through the National League Championship Series. Unfortunately, the White Sox continue to play well at 87 and 44. They are a full 3 games ahead of us in the race for the best record in all of baseball. And our Colorado Rockies September call-ups here in 2037 are about as unexciting as they could possibly be. We had sent Torres down to AAA, or actually waived and DFA'd him on his way to AAA a few days ago when Stone was healthy. Nobody picked him up, so we will bring him back. And we'll also bring back the outfielder Chris Roy, who was up with us a couple of years ago at this point. Hasn't been in the majors since 2035. He acquitted himself reasonably well back then, but has been caught in a numbers game for us in the outfield. But we'll get to see him again this September. Pitching-wise, a couple of youngsters who were not impressive in brief outings with us in the majors this year also back. The lefty pitcher Jake Lyons, who had an ERA of over 7 in 7 1/3 innings pitched. And then the righty reliever Melvin Reyes, who had a 6.44 ERA over 29 1/3 innings pitched before we sent him down to AAA. Both going to get another crack at pitching in the majors here in September. And after finishing up the month of August pretty well, a slow start here in September. We did split 2 games in Los Angeles against the Angels, but then back at home against the Los Angeles Dodgers, lost 3 of 4 there, including a doubleheader yesterday after we were rained out on Saturday. So the lead over the Dodgers still 11 games at this point. So certainly not feeling in any particular jeopardy of not winning the National League West. And with a 9.5 game lead on the Mets, feeling pretty confident that we'll end up having the best record in the NL. But at 91 and 45, the White Sox are now 5.5 games ahead of us for the best record in baseball. So if we do end up facing them in the World Series again this year, could be advantage White Sox with the potential home field advantage they will have on us. Taking a look at the batting leaders, Lee still does not have enough at-bats to qualify at this point. Has a chance over this next 3.5, 4 weeks till the end of the season to make up the gap there, though. Castillo once again leading the league in home runs. Roberts still leading the league in ribbies. Pack Jr. now 3rd in steals. Kevin Roberts Jr. leading the league in OPS and has moved up to 2nd in the league in batter WAR. Pitching-wise, Bob Russell, finally a starter on our team, tied for the league lead now with 14 wins. And Leo Martinez, 3 straight Cy Young Awards, probably not going to make it 4 in a row this year, but he has turned his season around a bit of late to put his WAR up to 4.8, which is 2nd best in the National League, and he's 9 and 4 with a 3.6 ERA at this point, so he has been pitching much better. I think around the All-Star break, his ERA was still in the 4 area, so he's been pitching very well over the last month and a half or so. And we bounced back from those losses against the Dodgers with a 10-9 win at home over the Marlins today. We'll be facing our old buddy, Gregorio Olvera, tomorrow, who we had to send to them along with a few others in the trade for the catcher Lee. Big day for our prospective Rookie of the Year, Johnny Castillo, 5 for 5 with 3 singles and a couple of doubles today in a very nice game for him. Some bad news, however, not something that's going to be a huge impact unless we have some other injuries. But the young pitcher Jeff Colson, former first-round pick, just suffered a strained shoulder, going to be out for 6 weeks. So he is certainly not going to be in the mix for the early start of the playoffs. He did start 7 games for us this year before moving into the long relief role where he spent most of the season. Finishes his first season in the majors with a 3-1 record, a 371 earned run average over 60 2/3 innings pitched. The concern for him is that he did give up 11 home runs in that relatively small sample size, was slightly above replacement level when all was said and done. And with that injury to Colson, we'll reunite with another young reliever who was not particularly impressive with us in a small sample size in the majors earlier this year. Evan Kluver, our first-round draft pick from a year ago, 1-2 record with a 5.74 ERA and 3 starts for us. Split the rest of the year between AA and AAA, where he went a combined 10-4. So not a ton for the 22-year-old to still prove in the minors, although he certainly wasn't dominant in AAA, but still well above a win above replacement. See what he can do over these last few months of the season. Would have to think he's not really a strong prospect to make the postseason roster unless we have some more injuries, but still will be good to get a little more experience for him in the majors and hopefully a little more knowledge as to what he'll ultimately become. He's definitely been a disappointment. He was a guy, as we talked about an episode or 2 back, when we picked him up just over a year ago at this point, about 14 months ago, thought he had potential to be a outstanding major league pitcher with above average stuff and above average movement, as well as above average control in terms of his potential. At this point, the best case scenario is that he's average stuff, average movement, and below average potential according to our scout. So also lost a little bit on what we think his top-end velocity could be, but that was just a one-time thing that we thought he could potentially get up to 97 miles an hour. And we ended up having a solid week, a 5-1 record, took 3 at home against Miami after winning that first game in the series, and then we took 2 out of 3 on the road against the Giants. So 3 weeks left in the season at this point. Taking a look at the standings, lead on the Dodgers up to 14 games, and our magic number for the division is down to 6. So not feeling like those games in a little while against the Dodgers, the final week of the season, are going to be all that important. The Mets continue to have the second best record in the NL, about at 80-63, are 11 games behind us. So we're not too far from clinching the best record in the NL. However, at 94-48, the White Sox still 3.5 games ahead of us in the battle for the best record in all of baseball. Kevin Roberts Jr. Continues to have a really good season, leading the league in ribbies, second in the league in OPS, and third in the league in batter WAR. Johnny Castillo now tied for the league lead in home runs with Michael Ross of the Cubs. Bob Russell still tied for the league lead in wins, and Leo Martinez still second in the league in pitcher WAR as we head into the final 3 weeks of this season. And we swept a series on the road in St. Louis over the first 3 days of this new week. Magic number down to 2 as the Dodgers have taken 2 out of their 3 games. But unfortunately, as often seems to happen in mid to late September, a pretty significant injury. Mr. Five Tools, Kevin Roberts Jr., who we were just talking about, had a resurgent season this year and seemed to be a pretty strong MVP candidate, is going to miss the last 2.5 weeks of the season. Fortunately, we won't likely, unless something goes completely off the rails, need to be playing in a wild card series. But with the 3 to 4 weeks of recovery time ahead of him, his availability for Game 1 of the divisional series is certainly in question. And unfortunately, his regular season definitely over at this point. Played in 140 games for us. Ended up hitting .296, 29 homers, 111 ribbies, stole 41 bases. Certainly would have had another 30-30 season if he had been able to play the last 2.5 weeks of the year. Finished the year with a 153 WRC plus and a 6.3 WAR. At this point, the main thing we hope is that he'll be healthy and ready to go when our divisional series does begin. And with it being a 3 to 4 week injury, it's going to be right on the borderline of whether or not he will be ready to go in Game 1. And he'll probably have a little bit of rust at that point, but we will certainly have him right back in the middle of our batting order for the playoffs once he is healthy. And the injuries just keep coming. All this one is less major. Kikaku Kawakami, the young pitcher, shoulder tendonitis day-to-day for about a week. We're certainly going to put him on ice while that happens. I did notice one interesting thing. Outside of us finally clinching the West Division crown today, which we certainly anticipated. But when we lost our potential MVP candidate for the rest of the season, Kevin Roberts Jr., our big rivals, the Chicago White Sox, also suffered a pretty significant loss for the rest of the regular season with their best MVP award candidate, and that is Jose Estran, the outstanding player who they signed to an extension last offseason. We're holding out hope that he might end up hitting free agency, but unfortunately that will not be the case. Estran finishes the year with a .327 average, 32 home runs, and 100 ribbies. Similar to Roberts Jr., he's out 2 to 3 weeks, so he should be back before Roberts Jr. He'll certainly be back for their divisional series unless he suffers a setback. But Estran perhaps is going to take a blow to his potential to win a third MVP award at the age of 27, with his season coming to a premature end, unfortunately. Another week in the books, and we are playing really good ball all of a sudden. Took 3 out of 4 at Pittsburgh after we swept the Cardinals. Got 3 against San Francisco at home before a day off, and then 3 games against Arizona before we finish off this month of September against the Dodgers. Taking a look at the standings with a couple weeks left in the season at 97 and 53. We are 14.5 games up on both the Brewers and the Mets for the best record in the NL, so that means we've clinched the best record in the National League. Half a game behind the White Sox in the battle for the best record in baseball. They've lost 4 in a row to open up opportunity for us, and we'll see if we can take advantage of that. At 97 and 53, we have 12 games left in this regular season. And our final homestand of the regular season, very successful, won all 6 games, sweeping the Giants and then sweeping the Diamondbacks, including a doubleheader after a rainout on Friday. So just 6 games left in the regular season now, 3 at the Dodgers, and then we'll finish off in October with 3 against the Padres. With our surging record, we've pushed our record to 103-53 with 8 straight wins now, and we are now 3 up on the White Sox, who are 3-7 in their last 10 for the best record in baseball. So after it looked like they were likely to hold us off, they seem to be dealing more poorly with the loss of Estran than we are dealing with the loss of Mr. Roberts Jr. Unfortunately, with a week left in the season, looks like Roberts Jr. will ultimately lose hold of leading the league in ribbies. Johnny Castillo tied with Ross for the lead in homers. Pack Jr. third in steals. Roberts second in OPS, third in batter WAR. Bob Russell now leading the league with 16 wins. Donis Valer tied for second in the league with 43 saves. And Leo Martinez has pushed his record to 11-4 and his 5.6 pitcher WAR, second best in all of baseball. We will see what it looks like with Mr. Lee. Batting average is .337, but only 404 at-bats on the year, 37 walks. Think he's likely to come up just short in enough at-bats to have qualified for the batting titles. So as we talked about at the start of the episode, it looked like we could potentially have a team triple crown with Lee, Castillo, and Roberts Jr. all leading the league in their respective categories of batting average, homers, and RBIs. With a week left to go in the season, it's not inconceivable that we don't lead the league in any of those categories if Ross is able to break the tie with Castillo for home runs and Roberto Lemus of the Reds is able to pass Kevin Roberts Jr. and ribbies over this final week of the season. And we continued rolling through the end of September, sweeping 3 on the road against the Dodgers, which has pushed our winning streak to 11 games. So just 3 games to go in this season, all on the road against the Padres. 106-53 record, so we've now clinched the best record in baseball and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Castillo, with 3 games left, still in a flat-footed tie with Ross for the lead in home runs. Unfortunately, Kevin Roberts Jr., as expected, has gotten passed by Roberto Lemus to lead the league in ribbies, although he's now leading the league in OPS with his .957, although he hasn't played in a few weeks. Taking a look at Roberts Jr., about a week left on that hamstring strain, so the good news is with the 3 games left in this season and then the wild card series after that, looks pretty likely that he will be back and healthy by the time we get to the divisional series. Mike Castro, who's kind of taken second fiddle this year to the outstanding rookie season that we have gotten from Mr. Castillo, was named your National League Rookie of the Month for September. Hit .389, 42 hits, 4 homers, 10 ribbies, and 22 runs scored. Castro, number 21 prospect in baseball, having a real nice rookie year for us. Batting average up to .295, 47 doubles, 5 triples, 14 home runs. He's scored 125 runs, put up a 125 WRC plus and a 4.7 WAR. He is a guy who's eligible for the prospect promotion incentive because we didn't sign him to that extension until after he already had major league experience. And we were hoping he would be a very strong candidate to win Rookie of the Year this year. And maybe he is at this point. Our assumption has been with the monster start to the season that Castillo got off to that Castro just had no chance. Certainly would think that with the gaudy numbers of 38 homers and over 100 runs scored and 100 ribbies, to go with a 4.3 WAR, that Castillo is still a very strong candidate. But as we just saw, Castro has now actually passed him in WAR for the season. may come down to whether or not Castillo ends up leading the league in home runs. Certainly would be hard to pass up a rookie who leads the league in homers for Rookie of the Year, particularly when he has pretty solid numbers in some other categories like Castillo does, but certainly not our primary concern. The main goal now is to keep this team healthy over the final 3 games of the regular season and hopefully set ourselves up for a long playoff run. We'll know whether or not we're able to get one for the thumb with 5 straight World Series titles by the time we find out the less important information about who actually won the individual awards for this 2037 season. And our winning streak finally did come to the end in the penultimate game of the year against the Padres, but we bounced back to win 5-3 on the final day of the season. So when all was said and done, Rockies 108-54, 667 winning percentage, 3 games ahead of the White Sox in the standings for the best record in baseball, 23 games up on the Dodgers in the division. They really collapsed down the stretch, and we ultimately ended up 18 games better than the Cubs for the best record in the National League. Johnny Castillo does end up tied for the league lead in home runs with both Giordano and Ross, 38 each. Johnny Castillo ends up third in the league in ribbies, and I believe that 111 tied him with Roberts Jr., so those two end in a flat-footed tie. Pack Jr. third in the league in steals. Roberts Jr. leads the league in OPS, fell off the leaderboard in batter war over those final 3 or so weeks of the season when he was injured. Bob Russell ends up leading the league in wins for our Rockies this year, his first season in Colorado since that big trade last offseason. Adonis Valer second in the league with 46 saves, and Leo Martinez second in the league with a 5.8 pitcher WAR. Taking a look at the team statistics before we finish up this episode, went 16-11 in August. We're basically a 500 team till we surged towards the end of the month. 22-6 in September, aided by that long winning streak. Ultimately, our 108-54 record was just a bit above Pythagorean expectations. Clearly the best offense in the National League, first in runs scored and first in almost every primary offensive category, the exceptions being homers where we ranked 4th, and strikeouts we were near the bottom of the lead. First in the league in steals, 4th in base running, 1st in zone rating, 2nd in defensive efficiency, so the base running and defense good as well. And we ultimately ended up having a premier pitching staff as well, 1st in the league in runs allowed and led the National League in almost every pitching category. The only exceptions were BABIP and home runs allowed, where we were 2nd in both. So a very strong finish to the season for our Colorado Rockies. And hopefully we'll be ready for the playoffs. Looks like we're not in a bad situation as far as injuries. Nobody else on the 30-man roster is banged up right now. Roberts Jr. with 4 days of recovery left from that hammy strain should be ready for the divisional series. Jeff Colson still out for a couple weeks with that strained shoulder. Certainly not going to be available for the divisional series. Could be on the cusp of perhaps making an NLCS roster. But Colson, I think he would have probably made the playoff roster, although we will be going down to 12 pitchers as we typically do, but certainly don't think it was guaranteed given how good our bullpen is. That said, he did have a nice rookie year for us, as we talked about, and certainly would at least love the option, if he's healthy, of having to make a decision on whether to potentially include him on a NLCS or a World Series roster if we're fortunate enough to make it to either of those levels of the postseason. And as we talked about earlier, Strawn was about a week ahead of Roberts Jr. in terms of his recovery. It looks like he did come back the last few days of the season, ended up still leading the American League in batter WAR, So it's not inconceivable that he might get his third MVP award despite missing a couple of weeks down the stretch for the White Sox. We will find out how our squad does in the playoffs in our next episode. The only 200-win teams in baseball, the Chicago White Sox and the Rockies, trying to see if they can face off against one another in the World Series for a record-extending fifth straight year. And we'll find the answer out to that question next time around. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.